DPS or even secret techniques? Well, I'm glad you asked, because this guide covers everything. From beginner-friendly tips to secrets that no one has ever touched on, this is the ultimate Minecraft Bedrock PvP tutorial. But before we get into the juicy stuff, you have to understand the basics of Bedrock PvP. In any given fight, the winner is often the person who deals the most damage, which means that our main goal is to get the maximum amount of hits, while taking minimal damage, which may sound simple, but once you understand this simple yet effective concept, everything falls into place. So, how do you get more hits? Well, this is where combos come into play. To put it simply, combos are chain hits where you can hit your opponent but they can't hit you. There are 3 main ways you can go about doing this. Let's start with the easiest, strafing. Strafing is when you move left and right to dodge your opponent's hits. Most people think that strafing is completely pointless, but I can assure you that it's not. I can even confidently say that strafing is better than all the other PvP methods. With all that said, how do you strafe effectively? Believe it or not, strafing randomly doesn't actually help. What you need to do is predict your opponent's movement. After a while of playing against them, you'll slowly pick up on their habits. Some players might prefer to move left more than right. Others might not strafe at all. This is why it's so important to constantly change the way you move. This messes up their aim and might even get you a combo. While starting a combo is very important, the same goes for holding it. This is where most players fail, but I'm here to help you with distancing. To break this down, imagine you are in a real life fight. You don't want to get too close to them to avoid being hit. Instead, you want to keep your distance and smash that like and subscribe. If this video gets 1,000 likes, I'll make a part 2. Well, ask the best PvPers in the entire world for tips and tricks. Anyways, distancing can be simplified into 2 words. W tapping. You want to hold W when you're hitting them, but once you're far enough from them, stop holding W. This will result in a flawless combo. In fact, here's an extra tip to make your combos even better. Try to aim at their feet when you are in a trade so that you can get more reach on them. In simpler words, you have to lick their feet. Yes! Next up, jump resetting. You've probably heard this term a million times, but let's not overcomplicate it, shall we? Jump resetting is basically when you jump at the exact moment your opponent hits you. This reduces the knockback taken and gives you momentum to start a combo. Try to jump on the 2nd, 4th, and 6th hit of every trade. Wait, but why wouldn't you jump on the first hit? Well, let me tell you a story. Once upon a time, there was a kid named IShowSpeed. He wanted to get really good at Minecraft PvP, so he scoured the internet and came across jump resetting. He loaded into a game and spammed his jump button in every single trade. But to his surprise, he ended up being comboed most of the time. Frustrated, he smashes his PC and most of the time. Frustrated, he smashes his PC and never touched Minecraft again. If only he would, because then he would have learned that jumping on the first hit is pure stupidity. Sure, there are scenarios where jumping immediately will get you the edge, but in most cases you will end up in the sky. So you should only jump on the 2nd hit to minimize the chances of making mistakes. The only downside to jump resetting is that it's kinda hard. Spoiler alert, kinda is an understatement. You have to spend hours, days, or even weeks just to get the hang of it. So I've come up with a solution for you. For the past year, I've been using a secret technique that literally nobody talks about. This is counter strafing. I've mentioned this in all of my other tutorials, but I personally find this the best way to combo. It's a combination of strafing and jump resetting. As you approach your opponent, strafe the opposite way they do. You can also cut them off by moving in front of their strafe. But all of the mentioned techniques won't be useful if you don't have good settings. While settings are important, so many people overlook them, thinking that they are pointless. But the truth is, settings can make or break your PvP skills. This is especially true with sensitivity. A lot of people make a huge mistake by increasing the sensitivity to the maximum, thinking it will make their movements quicker, but I've actually found this to be extremely misleading. Personally, I use 14 sensitivity with 800 DPI on my mouse, which is considered to be a very low sensitivity compared to others. However, sensitivity actually depends a lot on your device. If you're on PC, I would go for a lower sensitivity. On the contrary, mobile and controller players should go for a higher sensitivity, as the movement is much harder on that. Another important setting is FOV. Unlike sensitivity, FOV doesn't actually change how the game is played. All it does is modify your field of view, which means that the higher your FOV, the more things you can see. So it's settled, right? High FOV is the best option. Well, not really. The higher the FOV, the harder it is to keep your aim steady on your opponent. So what is the best FOV? Well, it really depends on personal. Psych! The best FOV without a dub is 90. Don't believe me? Try it out yourself. Another really important setting is to turn off FOV effects. FOV effects make your aim very shaky, so there's really no harm in disabling it. Now that we got settings out of the way, let's get into the best PvP method to ever exist. Hit selecting. Hit selecting works by intentionally delaying your hit so that your opponent hits you first, which results in you hitting the ground before them. By combining this with jump reset, you can jump reset before them, ensuring you get an easy combo on them. Alright, I just said a load of words and you probably didn't understand a single thing. So here's some actual footage of a hit select. I let my opponent hit first, then I hit back immediately as soon as I heard the hit land. Then I jump reset as I hit the ground. While this all sounds easy, it takes a lot of practice to master this technique. So here's an extra tip to help you with that. Try to strafe into your hit select, as this will help you get more momentum and pick them up from the ground. Another thing you might notice is that I keep aiming at my opponent's feet when I'm trying to jump reset. That's because your reach is actually higher when you aim at their feet, which makes hitting a jump reset 50 times easier. Now that you know how to optimize your settings, W tap, counter strafe, jump reset, and hit select, it's time to talk about momentum. Out of the hundreds of PvP tutorials out there, not a single one covers momentum in depth. Why? Probably because momentum is arguably the hardest yet most important part of Minecraft Bedrock PvP. But luckily for you, I've spent the last month researching momentum to the very core, so you don't have to. Firstly, did you know that sprinting can actually make comboing harder? Let me explain. In a normal trade, both players are sprinting, so if you suddenly back out in the middle of a trade, then move forward again, you perform what's called the momentum reset. However, what separates a good momentum reset from a bad one is when you use it. I'll put up a whiteboard on screen right now to help you understand better. If you are fighting a jump resetter, a momentum reset can benefit immensely. However, if you're fighting a counter strafer, it might not help that much. This is because a counter strafer has a ton of momentum at all times. If you're fighting a person who is constantly S-tapping, never momentum reset, because it'll just end up in you being combo. Ping also plays a very crucial role in determining a player's momentum. On high ping, you should always be sprinting forward so that you maximize the amount of momentum you have. On lower ping, you can try some cheeky S-tapping or counter strafing to gain more momentum. Never strafe on high ping because it will end up making your aim look like this. Spam clicking is also viable on high ping as it ensures you get the best hit registration possible. However, the same cannot be said for low ping players. I would always recommend low ping players to time their clicks instead of spamming. This gives you the best hit reg possible. All in all, always straight line when you're high ping and strafe more when you're low ping. And that wraps it up. Let me know down in the comments if this PvP guide